engaging, provocative, inspirational conversations. Welcome to The Culture Point with Aaron Phillip Clark. So my guest today is Brendan Slocumb. He's the author of The Violin Conspiracy and Symphony of Secrets. His newest novel, The Dark Maestro, centers on Curtis Wilson, a brilliant cellist whose life is thrown into a tailspin when he's forced to join the Witness Protection Program. Welcome to The Culture Point, Brendan.
Thank you very much. I'm really happy to be here.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you here. I actually had read the Violin Conspiracy, so that's how I learned about you. And then in my research, I learned that you also had a podcast that kind of centered on how music saved your life, and then you interviewed other musicians. And so, as I was reading The Dark Maestro, which I loved, and I really, really kind of felt like I had this connection with Curtis. And maybe it's because in some ways Curtis might have mirrored some of my own uh, my own upbringing and a little bit of my love for comic books and artistry. And so I was wondering, out of all the protagonists that you've written about, would you say that Curtis is the closest to your real life experience?
Ooh, that's a great question, but I'm going to have to say that's going to be a no. In my first novel, The Violin Conspiracy, the protagonist, Ray, was probably the closest to me. Although, Ray and Curtis have a lot of things in common, and you'll excuse me if I refer to Curtis as Ray and vice versa. I read all of these books, but it's been a couple of years.
Yeah, I understand. And so, with your real life experience, though, I was reading and it said that essentially at 9 years old is where you started playing music,
Yes.
and that essentially saved your life. And as I was reading The Dark Maestro, obviously there's the parallels there.
Okay.
Curtis comes to music and falls in love with the cello, but his surroundings, there's love there, but obviously there's a little bit of chaos too, and some of that is just being in the environment and also having the father that he has.
Right.
And I'm wondering if for Curtis, um, what made you decide when he fell in love with the cello? That's what I'm curious about. Why that particular age? Was it something kind of pivotal about that age that he finds music, that you found you wanted to explore?
Yeah, kids that age are naturally inquisitive. It just kind of comes along with the territory. And um, that is the age that a lot of beginners start in a public school music program. And I have taught Curtis and thousands of beginners just like him over the course of my career. And I know that look. I know the look when they find something that just grabs them and just won't let go. And I know instantly that, this kid is in love with this. This kid is going to be phenomenal. He's going to have a great time. This is somebody that I really want to see excel. I mean, I want that for all of my students. But yeah, you can see the Curtises immediately. They just shine a tad bit brighter than everyone else.
So obviously the book is packed with a lot of different themes, and one of those themes is definitely identity.
Hmm.
And so, Curtis is forced to have to sacrifice his music career, which in a way kind of threatens to kind of he loses part of himself
Hmm.
in that process. Which I feel is like a real fear for artists. I mean, that's a fear that as a writer that I have, that something may happen where I can no longer write, and then my identity is going to have to be kind of like reshaped.
Right.
And so uh did that how did you come to that, I guess, theme to explore? I mean, is that like the idea of not being able to perform music, is that something that kind of existed in the back of your head, especially maybe when you were young, since it
Mhm.
was kind of an escape? What if I no longer have that escape anymore? Then what happens to me?
I mean, you touched on it. I think that's a fear for all artists of, whatever medium you work in. It's definitely a real fear. And when you're a kid, I think, well, at least for me, you think about it maybe once a year. If I can't play, okay, this is so much fun. What would happen if I couldn't do this anymore? And then you immediately want to go and pick your instrument up and go and play because, it just you realize that without it, you're incomplete, and there's a real possibility that you won't ever be able to play again. And you hope that that time never comes. But for a lot of older artists, it's difficult to put away the thing that has basically defined you for your entire life, because of injuries or just age or yeah, your eyes are going, you can't see anymore, you never know. But it's definitely a real fear that I think all people as artists have to endure at least once. And I figured that was something that I knew about, and other people, I mean, people can relate to that aspect on anything. It doesn't necessarily have to be arts. It's whatever you love doing, and you could never do it again. That's real. That actually is real. And I wanted something authentic that people could, relate to. This story actually started off with a completely different theme. And then some life events happened, and I decided to write about witness protection instead of the other idea that I had.
Interested. Would you want to share what the other idea was?
Somebody might try to yank it. So no,
Oh,
it
that's
was.
true.
I'm actually gonna. No, it's cool. It's cool because they can't do it like I can. But I'm going to. I was going to write the original story about hypnosis, and Curtis was going to be hypnotized into doing something that he would never normally do. But
Hmm.
yeah, so that I had to put that one by the wayside just because of life.
Okay. Well, and not to give too much away in the book, but you at least were able to kind of work that part into the story a little bit. I think once we kind of get into the Dark Maestro,
Right, right.
element. So that's cool. Okay. So classical music obviously is a character in the book.
Mhm.
And so as I was reading, I was taking notes about the composition choices that you put in the book. Because I said, okay, I'm gonna have to go back and listen to some of this and see how that plays as like a soundtrack,
Mhm.
to the narrative. And so I wonder what made you choose those particular compositions.
As I was outlining, I drew back from my love of comics, and I'm like, okay, I see comic books as just all action, and that's fantastic. And when I'm playing music, it really is active for me, and I put myself in all kinds of situations where I'm watching a movie where some action is happening. I'm like, that would go perfect with this piece of music. That would be perfect for this piece of music, and I'm like, well, why not? Let me see if this will actually fit. When I was writing the comic panels, I went back then. Sometimes I wrote the panels first and then I added music to it, but a lot of times I picked the piece and then added the words to the comic panels after I decided what piece to do. And they were all pieces that I love to listen to, I love to play, and they're exciting. And I think if you look at them in context, if you listen to it in context of the narrative in the comic book panels, I think it makes perfect sense. To me, it's just like, all right, yeah, why would I not listen to Schubert 9 right here? This is perfect. That music goes great in the background to this. Nine on Bald Mountain is perfect here. Polvetzian Dances is perfect right here. So yeah, let's do it like that.
So, is it a possibility
Uh-oh,
that
uh-oh.
we may see that we may actually get to see the Dark Maestro, as a graphic novel, as a comic book, or as it's created in the narrative, as this digital comic book?
Yeah.
Uh,
I am well, I'll answer the second part first. I would love to see a digital comic book done now that I have a visual representation of the Dark Maestro. I had some artists do their concept of what the Dark Maestro would look
oh
like, and
man.
I'm going with this one. This one looks pretty good. It's on a bookmark. You see me on tour, you get a bookmark when you buy the book. But
Okay.
it also has the playlist, a QR code for the playlist in the back.
Oh, that's cool.
So I would love to see it done. I have been trying since before I finished writing this book to get someone to actually, take on this project. But everything seems to be changing so rapidly. All the technology is like, well, we used to do this and we don't do this anymore. And when you do this, you have to have X, Y, and Z. And I'm just like, look, I don't know any of the stuff. The script is written. Just make the comic book. That's what I want. And as far as a graphic novel is concerned, I'm fighting with my agent right now to do a graphic novel. He doesn't think I know I don't have enough knowledge of what goes into a graphic novel. I know I don't. So I need to do the research, but so many people have come up to me, not only for Dark Maestro, but also for Violin Conspiracy and Symphony of Seekers. They're like, teenage boys will read this if you make it into the form of a graphic novel. I'm not a graphic novel guy as far as, whatever is out there that people read, but I mean, I get it. If it's got, pictures and action and all this good stuff in it, I would totally pick it up. But yeah, I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
Yeah, I think it'd be really cool. And as a lover of comics and graphic novels, I also had Arvin Ethan David, who just did
Mm,
the graphic novel adaptation for Trouble Is My Business, the Raymond
mm,
Chandler story. So he was on the last show, and we were talking about graphic novels as well and how they've essentially been elevated,
right,
over the years. It used to be a time where people would kind of put them in this category over here as
mhm,
kind of less than, and they're not quite literature, this, that, and the other.
right.
But he was saying that they've definitely transcended, and there's a certain level of respect for them now, and even
Yes.
in the education, especially when we're talking about young
Mhm.
people, it gets them excited about reading.
Absolutely.
And I think
Absolutely.
that that's valid. I mean, when I taught high school, we had a whole little stand of graphic novels there, and
Hmm.
then and the kids read them,
Yeah.
so I think it'd be great. I think it'd be another opportunity to get kids excited, to read
Um,
and also
um,
learn about classical music.
hey, absolutely. It's a two for one. I'm doing my best to get all the information I need. And if anybody knows anyone who specializes in producing graphic novels, please hit me up because I would definitely like to get one of those or three of those done.
Okay. I will send you some photos.
Hey, perfect, perfect.
So another theme is family, and I think that if anything, I can say in some ways it's kind of the overarching theme. And early on, Curtis has this close relationship with his father, Zippy, and then his father's partner, Larissa, and it's a lot of love in that household.
Right,
And to no fault of Curtis's, the relationship with Zippy starts to falter and kind of fall apart.
right,
Um, Yet, despite all the mistakes that Zippy makes, he still is there for his son.
yeah,
He still lets his son know, as he says oftentimes, I've got your back.
right,
Um, and to such an extent that Zippy makes like this ultimate sacrifice, not to give give the story away, but he does something incredible for his family.
right.
And I'm curious, when you were writing the book, was that a theme that already was foundational for you, where you said this is going to be about fathers and sons, and not just fathers and sons, but Black fathers and sons?
I think the Black fathers and sons aspect, that's my perspective, and that's going to be naturally a given in any story that I write. But yeah, I love writing family dynamics. I really, really, really do enjoy it because if it's a perfect family, which I don't know of one that exists, or if it is a dysfunctional family, everybody can relate to it. Every single person can relate to some type of family dysfunction. And what Zippy was going through, it might not be the same type of dysfunction, but people would get it. They were like, okay, I see what, and Curtis's relationship with his father, in his teenage and older years, it makes perfect sense why he would be distant from his dad because after considering, what took place and why he's in the situation that he's in. But I really wanted to write that, especially the letter in jail that Zippy writes to Curtis. I had issues with my dad. Before he passed away, I never felt like I got to resolve them. And I'm hoping that this is one way that a lot of people who I know are, just don't have the greatest relationship with their dads. This might be a way to help bridge that gap and bring them together so that they can, make amends. They could at least meet on level ground so that they can there's always love for your parents, always going to be love. But let's get it to the point where you're able to show that and say that before it's too late. Because when that opportunity is gone, it is gone.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I feel like when I was reading, I said, "Oh, this is with Father's Day coming up." I said, "This is a perfect Father's Day read." Like, we should get people should get this for their dads and vice versa. So given the comic book motifs and the themes, as I was reading, I kept thinking this is very much an origin story, right? This is kind of like, like structurally, it's like this could, this is origin. And you have a little bit of the coming of age, and then
Mhm.
you have, as Curtis comes to terms with what justice is and right and
Mhm.
wrong. And I was thinking like, okay, if this is the origin story, is there a possibility that this could turn into a series? I mean, not just we talked about the comics and the graphic novel, but I'm wondering if you've given thought to extending Curtis's literary life, if you will, and seeing where this Dark Maestro persona goes.
Anything is possible. I will say that. I don't have any immediate plans to do that. My goal was to close out this particular universe with Ray and the Violent Conspiracy, Byrne and Ebony and Josephine and Freddie in Symphony of Secrets, and Curtis and Larissa and Zippy in Dark Maestro. That they all take place in the same universe. When you read this book, you will see names that look a bit familiar from previous novels, and they play an important role. I planned on closing it, but you never know. You never know. You never know. I might get who knows? I don't know. I could listen to the right piece of music and say, you know what, I'm doing this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's hard to put characters away,
Yeah.
it's difficult. But I mean, on that note, have you considered at some point writing like a series? I know these books are kind of in the same universe, but I mean in the sense of kind of a traditional series where we see characters, the same characters kind of go on different adventures and whatnot.
Like I said earlier, anything is possible. I've never actually thought about doing that, but as I grow as a writer, that might be an avenue that I want to explore. And goodness knows, I've got plenty of ideas for music for this genre. Somebody told me I created this genre, musical thrillers. I'm like, all right, well, I will go with it. I'll take it. And you never know. You never know. That's definitely a possibility. I want to get a couple more books under my belt, and then I will maybe feel a bit more established and confident in being able to carry on with these same characters. Because there's something special, I think, about a one shot. Just writing a story about someone who they either live and happily everything is happily ever after, or they die and everything is just whatever. But it's to me it's unrealistic to have these characters stick around forever and ever and ever. That's I don't want to see that. It's like a soap opera that goes on forever. So it's like, man, come on. And I
Yeah.
remember that lady on that soap opera when I was a kid, and now is she still on this show? I'm not trying to. I think that's a bit much, but like a lot of manga series, they end. There's
Yeah.
an ending to them. So,
Right.
I could see maybe doing a three novel series with the same set of characters, maybe something like that. That might be fun. You never know. I'm about to write that down for my next idea. Thank you, Aaron.
No problem. But yeah, no, I feel the same way. Sometimes I think I don't know if I could do a series where we get into, anywhere near like 5 or 6 books, but
Hmm.
I think like that sweet spot is like 3 or 4,
Right.
with 5 maybe being kind of it,
Hmm. Hmm.
just because I agree. Sometimes it's characters unless they're still speaking to you and
Right.
you have that passion to continue to write them, but I think it's hard. As a writer you have so many different ideas in
Yeah.
your head. um so tell me what comic books are you reading now?
Wow. If I was doing this in my living room, you would see a stack this high of X-Men, every X-Men title, Justice League, Titans, Aquaman. But okay, they came out with a Space Ghost comic book.
Hmm.
Now,
Yeah.
I'm old enough to remember Space Ghost, on Sunday morning before you went to church. I'm old enough to remember that, but a lot of people kind of remember it as corny from the Cartoon Network series. I'd be,
Hmm.
no, no, no. This is not your parents' Space Ghost. No, 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 no. He is ruthless. It is. It's a phenomenal comic book, and I'm like, wow, the
Okay.
writers are just killing it. So anything I read, all Marvel, DC, and some Image, everything pretty much I'm reading.
Right on.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm gonna have to check out the Space Guy. I saw it, and I
yeah.
again, my favorite reference is the Cartoon Network where he had
Don't sleep on it.
the talk show.
Yeah. Oh, nothing like
So
that.
yeah, okay.
Don't
All
sleep
right.
on it. Seriously, it's a banger.
All right, I'll put that on the list. Yeah, I've been reading Absolute Batman. I've been
Is it good?
enjoying.
I haven't started it yet.
You know what? I hate to say this.
Uh-oh.
I like elements of it better than the classic origin story. I'll be honest
Wow.
with you. It's a Batman
Okay.
for the time. It
Okay.
really is.
Wow.
I mean, it's basically answering the question, what would he be like if he didn't have the money?
Yeah.
And he was just an everyday dude. And he's
Mhm.
just as effective
Wow.
because of the intellect. He's brilliant. So it's not about the money. It's not about all the, you know what I mean, the
Hmm.
fancy gadgets and stuff. Like he makes do and is incredibly effective with what he's doing. And I have fallen in love with that story. That is just, I mean, it's great. I like the Superman one too.
Hmm.
It's good, and they've kind of changed things so he's a little bit more relatable too.
Hmm.
But that Batman, whoo.
Well, I'm definitely gonna get. I've got the first five issues of Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman.
Okay.
The whatever it's called. What is it called?
Absolute, the
The
absolute
Absolutes.
universe. Yeah.
Just haven't read them yet. There's some X-Men stuff going on that I'm a little too deep into to
Yeah.
go into Batman right now. But yeah,
Well, yeah, man. I would love to know your thoughts. Once you dig in.
I will let you know. I will.
Yeah, I had Walter Mosley on, and I was telling him the same thing, and so he said he was gonna go pick it up because I said, man, it's great. Like it's just cinematic.
Wow.
They did a good job on it. So
Well, how about that Justice League Unlimited?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
That's really good.
Another just great. I mean, I've
Hmm.
been happy with DC lately.
Yeah, they upped
They've
their game
been,
a bit. They have.
yeah, so yeah, I've been pleased, and I'll check out the Superman movie and kind of see how that is.
Yeah,
But
we'll see. We'll see. I'm
you
I'm,
know,
I'm excited for Mr. Terrific, but yeah, we'll
me
see.
too. Yeah, it's great to have him on the big screen.
Yeah.
So how about could you tell us what you're working on next, and then also where listeners can and viewers too can learn more about your upcoming projects and what's next for Brendan Slocumb.
Yeah, sure. I'm actually about to start writing my next book in a few weeks. I'm in the middle of my tour right now. I'm traveling. I'm going to New Orleans in a couple of weeks. I'm going to be in Charlottesville, Virginia on Friday, and someplace in between. I think Arlington, Virginia, but if I don't look at my calendar, I couldn't tell you. But I will be around the DMV, DC, Virginia, Maryland area until I start traveling again. I get a break from July through September, and in that time, I will have finished my fourth novel.
Mm, okay, very cool. Does
Yeah.
it usually take you I don't know, about 6 months to write that first draft, or how long does it usually take you?
It depends on my health and the story. I write really fast. Violin Conspiracy, I wrote in 2 months.
Oh wow.
Um, Symphony of Secrets, I wrote in 4 months. And because I was dealing with a lot of stuff, Dark Maestro took me 6 months, but I'm not anticipating on taking that long. I write every day and I write until I'm done.
Right on.
Yeah.
Okay, and it usually how long do you write for every day?
2,500 words a day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's it. That's my goal. That's what I set. It's that musical training. You're just disciplined to sit down and do it. And I'm like, yep, all right. When I get done, I'm done.
That's cool. That's great. All right. Well, I appreciate this. This has been great. For the viewers and listeners out here, we want to thank Brendan Slocumb for joining us here at the Culture Point. And the book is The Dark Maestro. It's available now. So go out and get it. And it is a perfect Father's Day read as well. Um, Yeah, thank you. And we hope to have you back.
I would love to come back. We got comics to discuss as well as some literary things. And you can find me at brendanslocumb.com. It's usually the same handle on Twitter, or it used to be Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, et cetera, et cetera. Don't confuse me with Brendan Slocumb 22, who is my nephew. I'm the better looking one.
All right. That's good to know. So everybody make sure you follow the correct Brendan Slocum. All right. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.